Okay, so we're recording now. Okay, cool. So thank you everybody for coming on this marketing sandwich course webinar. I think we've run loads over the last couple of weeks, obviously because of the changing situation, and we've got some more coming up next week. So next week on Monday we are speaking to Lee Jackson, who is a presentation coach, was the head of Professional Speakers Association for a while. He's a guy I've known for a long time. He's brilliant at presenting, brilliant at creating slides and giving talks. So he's got lots of tips on being able to present, particularly online, because obviously he's doing a lot of that now from his face-to-face work. He's now switched to online. So that's on Monday at 2 in the afternoon. And then on Tuesday at 12:30, we're speaking to Chris Allen, who is the head of Black Solicitors in Leeds, which is a large firm of solicitors who do all sorts of things. Chris is a really great guy. He literally couldn't be any more Yorkshire if he tried. And so yeah, I've got a lot of time for Chris. He's a really nice guy. So without further ado, I'm going to start this one. So today we're going to talk about 10 things that you can do right now to improve your marketing. And I've got a little slideshow, which is not something I do very often on these, but I've got a slideshow I'm going to kind of step through. So bear with me a second. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Can you all see my screen, my Canva screen as it is?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
So I'm going to set it to present. I'll move it out of the way. Great. So I guess the first little tip is, if you're putting together presentations, Canva works an absolute treat. Canva is a great way of designing stuff for free. This is an additional one. This is a freebie. You can have this one.
Brilliant.
So Canva works really well for doing all sorts of little graphics. I don't know if you've used it before, but it's kind of a really great, really useful kind of alternative to Photoshop that just runs on your browser. It's a dream to use, and there are loads of templates in there. This presentation I'm going to go through today, it was created on the fly, effectively in Canva. So there's no PowerPoint involved, no additional licenses to buy. It's got colors, it's got shapes, it's got everything you need for doing PowerPoints and videos and social media graphics and all sorts of things. So this presentation is created in Canva. So without further ado, let's get on to the 10 ways you can improve your marketing today. So the first one is to fix your website. I know that Helen, you're still to start building your website, so this is not a particular issue. But going through, once you have got your website up and running, it's really important to ensure that it's fixed. So it's really good to take the time to look through your pages and see which ones have got old information, poor navigation, or terrible call to actions or missing call to actions. So a call to action is basically how do I contact you? So we've set up the issue. What's the problem? Right, I really want to use Helen or Joy's services. What do I do? Where do I find that? So making sure that the pages have got clear call to actions, making sure things like phone numbers are right on it, that postal addresses, everything, all the details are correct. So fix your website. Jump in and get those issues fixed. If there's any kind of old content that's been there for 3 or 4 years that's now out of date, you've got old blog posts that are no longer relevant, or ones that new information's come to light and they need updating, then go in and update them. A great reason for fixing your website is that as you've gone through, Google looks at the site and sees if there are bits missing or broken links, things like that. If you fix them, that will improve your Google rankings. And also by fixing elements and adding new content or removing stuff, it brings the Google web searches come back again to the site, and the more searches you get on the site, then the more visitors you're likely to get as your rankings improve. So the first thing is to go in and fix your site. Again, we talked about the broken links in there. So Google hates broken links and users hate them even more. There's nothing worse than getting on a site and finding 404 errors, which are the pages that show when the page is either gone or is broken or isn't there. So go in and fix broken links. You can hunt them down and fix them. There are a couple of tools that you can use. that are free out on the internet. At the end of this, I'll put a link into a blog post that I've written that's got links to tools that can be used. So go in and fix all broken links, update things, again, links, external links out to sites that might have gone or might have failed. Go in and just make sure they're all right. The next tip, I'm just going to move everyone around because it's all kind of in the top. So this is really, really key, making sure your site is fast. So Google really loves fast sites, especially as the majority of searches are now done on mobiles, or tablets. And obviously they are, for the main, apart from where we are at the minute, for the main time, they're relying on 4G networks or 3G networks, depending on where you are, to kind of send that traffic across to the phone. And if your site is big and bloated or slow or old or out of date, then it will take it longer to get through over the mobile network and to get onto your customers' phones. So making sure that it's really, really fast on mobile is really key, especially as Google have now changed the indexing. They used to index the desktop site first, and they would index the mobile site second. That's now changed. So they actually index mobile first. So they actually come and look at your mobile site before anything else. They may even just ignore your desktop site if they're too different. And this kind of comes back to from a long time ago when mobile sites first arrived. There were only, people would create two almost like separate sites. So we'd say, this information is only going to go on the desktop site, and that we will cut down the amount of information that's on the mobile site. So any sites that are still doing that, and there's not many left to be honest, but any sites that are still doing that are going to be penalised. And also, if your current site doesn't work well on mobile, so that it's the buttons are too close together, or it's not very usable on a mobile, then again Google will penalise you and put sites that are better on mobile above yours. So it's really key to make them as fast as possible. A really key thing is the size of your images, and because larger images take longer to download, so that is another thing that will slow your site down. One of the main problems is, and this happens to a lot of people who are not web developers but or web designers who are looking after their site, is that they will take a photograph with their phone or with a professional camera or whatever, and then upload that straight into the website. So a professional camera, for example, will take a picture at 300 dots per inch, and it might be 6,000 pixels wide and 4,000 odd pixels deep, which is an enormous image. It's quite a large file. It's got loads of information in it, and it needs all that information in it. If that image is going to be used by a printer, so if it's going to be in a print publication, then it needs all that color information, which is what makes up file size, and it needs to be 300 dots per inch, because that's a lower resolution that doesn't print well on paper. The difference with a web is that most screens, other than some kind of high-end Apple screens, it tends to be, have 72 dots per inch on the screen. So that means that the screen's made out of lots of dots. So any more than so a 300 dots per inch image has got far too much information in it. So if that's the first thing, is to crunch down the resolution of the image down to kind of no more than 72 dots per inch. And then the actual physical file size itself. So if on your website, one of the main images actually shows on the screen at 500 pixels wide, then make sure that you crop and scale down your image to be 500 pixels wide, because then the internet is serving that image at exactly the right size, at exactly the right resolution, so it will come through a lot quicker. There are tools that you can add to your website which will fix the resolution on the fly. So you can get plugins which will kind of go, okay, we don't really care what the size of your image that you've uploaded. We'll use some kind of clever some clever software that effectively crushes down the image and then puts it onto the screen. The problem with that is that, again, that slows down your website. Your website needs to be able, the software, your server that your website's on will spend time processing that image before it can display it on screen, which again means it's slow. So review the size of your images and make sure that they're as close as possible, are scaled to the exact size that they should display on the screen, and that way the server just serves them exactly as they should be with no additional work required, which is obviously going to improve the speed of your site. So review the size of images. If you've got large images in there now, go back, review them, edit them down, and re-upload them into your site. And that will go on, sorry, Jay.
Because I am a product business, I think this has been a bit of an issue for me. But the guidelines for Shopify are that your images should be 2080 by 2080 square, which seems enormous.
That does seem enormous, yeah. Yeah, that's really big. Yeah. So just as an example, on my website, the header images that I have on there are 1,000 pixels wide. And those are these are images, banner images that go across the whole width of the website, and they look fine. And they are that big because they need to be that big. If I made them 500 dots per inch, then they would need to. The website would then go the other way and have to kind of stretch the images to fit, and that's when they'll start to lose any kind of clarity. But that's really big, and I wasn't aware that was their kind of, that was their guidance. But that seems far too big.
Yeah, well, I might check it again, but it was one of the official Shopify documents, because they only moved to Shopify July last year.
Right,
so
okay.
I've been sort of checking everything. So unless they've vastly sort of decreased it in that time, but yeah, that is a good one, because that is something I need to pick up on.
Yeah, I mean, a potential reason for that. So in your Shopify, is it possible for a customer to kind of hover over an image and it shows it in more detail? It almost like blows it up.
Yeah, I think that's a standard functionality.
Right,
so
okay.
maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a reason why it would need a larger image. Is there an option to kind of get it to use two images, which will be a kind of a way around that? So you would have the smaller image, which is the kind of the first image you see on a preview, and then it would only utilize the larger image as you hover over that. And that might not be an option in Spotify, because I'm not entirely sure. But if it was, then that would be a good way around that, because then the website would only pull in the larger image when it was needed, rather than it pulling in straight away.
Everything to load it, yeah, first.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, thank you.
That's fine. Again, I'm not sure, so you might just have to play around.
Richard, is there any software? Because it's just showing me technical ineptitude. Like, so I do take pictures on my phone.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you make them smaller. Is there like software you can get to do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the obvious one is Photoshop. However, that is a bit of overkill, I think, if you're only scaling images down. A really good alternative to that, I mean, we use a piece of software that is free, which the name of it is gone now. So my mind goes blank, but I'll put it in the comments in a bit.
Brilliant. Thank you. I can Google it. I just wondered if you knew.
Yeah.
As long as I know there's something you can get free.
So there's that, or an alternative. A great alternative is actually Canva.
Yeah, well, I've got Canva. I was just thinking that, because you can get set up banners and everything, but I didn't know if that would resize an image as well.
It does, yeah. So what you can do in Canva is you can create the canvas. You kind of say what size image you want it to be, and then upload your photograph into Canva, and then place it effectively on the canvas, and then you can move it around and crop it in Canva, and then when you download it, it will download it at the right resolution for you.
Oh, great.
So Canva is a really great way of being able to crop and create your images. We do it a lot. Obviously, we did it for this presentation, but we do it a lot for creating really quick graphics or little animations, and it comes out at the right scale.
Brilliant. Excellent.
So Canva's really good, and it's effectively free.
Great.
So yeah, using Canva to scale images is a really good idea.
Super.
Again, this is a really, really key element, is ensuring each page has a description. So if you go to you create a new page in your website, by default, in WordPress or in any other kind of tools that could build a site, by default, your description will be empty. You need probably to put in WordPress, you need to add a plugin, which is there's one called Yoast, which is a great SEO plugin, and that'll give you the option to be able to define your own bespoke description into the page. And the reason that's important is that pages without a description, Google will go in and try and use some of the text out of your page. It might not use the right text, it might not optimize it in the right way, you don't know what it's going to display. Whereas if you add your own bespoke description, you can craft that. And the description is something that catches a couple of people out sometimes. And the reason it does is because it's the bit that you can't see on your website. So when you actually get onto your page, the user and you can't see the description that you've created for that actual page. It's kind of a hidden bit. The place that the description appears is in a Google search. So in a Google search, which I'll just going to escape out of this and do a quick search for you. It doesn't really matter what I look for. If I look just for BBC. So the description on the page is this element here, the bit in black underneath. Now, when you go to the actual BBC page, you can't see that, but they can craft that, so you can change that. And the other good reason this is a really good example is that I searched BBC. That's in my search up there. The fact that they've got BBC in their description, you can see that it's made it bold, and that's kind of an indicator to the user that they're in the right place. So if your page is talking about jewelry, for example, I know Joe yours does, your page descriptions need to mention jewelry. So if somebody's searching for jewelry, Google bolds up the jewelry elements and that match the key phrase that's being searched, and it gives the user an indication that they're in the right place, which is the way to kind of get them to then click through to the page. So I think the description is really, really key. Let me go back to my slides. Hopefully it goes back in the right place. There we go. Right, gone back in the right place. That's cool. So adding that description is really, really key. It's also really important to get those keywords that you're looking for in the URL as well. So rather than just calling it page 1, 2, 3, 4, or kind of numbers, or copy of page 6 or whatever, that's kind of useless. So if you get your page, the part you want people to find you for in the URL, that helps a lot. So in my URL on my page for these webinars, it's /marketing webinars, because it makes a lot of sense. People get there and they can find that, and Google kind of matches it up and goes, okay, so the page is called marketing webinars, the description mentions marketing webinars, all the content talks about marketing webinars, this must be a page about marketing webinars. It's kind of that, it is kind of that obvious. So ensure each page has a unique description that tells people what's in the page and what they should expect, or what you want them to do when they get through onto the actual page. Keep moving things around a little bit. So next tip is to update your pages and add blogs. So people generally perceive websites as almost like a two-tier system. So they'll have static pages, which are product pages or service pages or whatever they are, and then they'll have the blog, and the blog they could call it what they want, but that's effectively like the news section, the latest things, the new offers, the new hires, whatever. A lot of people end up just using the blog and updating that regularly, but then not updating the rest of the pages. So reviewing old content, going back over it, changing things, adding new elements. By updating your pages and adding blogs, that then encourages Google to come back. If you've got new, fresh content on there, then Google will want to come back, re-index your content, and that will help you with your rankings. And obviously there'll be more visitors come because it'll see that your website's fresh. If you think a great example is you've got two websites, one that gets an updated blog, maybe two new blogs a month, or one new blog a month even, and then a site that has basically been designed 2 years ago and nobody's ever updated it, because a lot of customers will kind of say, right, well, I've had my blog looked at, I have my blog designed, it's there, And then we'll talk to them about, well, do you want to add some more content to it? It's like, well, no, it's built now. Well, why do we need to add anything else? It'll just sit there. Well, that's fine, but it's not new, it's not relevant, and Google wants to keep applying the newest, most relevant information. So somebody searches, they want stuff that is fresh, that's correct. If you've not updated your website for say 2 years, then you might as well not bother having a website, to be honest, because it's not going to get found. It's unlikely to be surfaced. So regular updates, regular reviews of going back over old content that you might have written 2-3 years ago can be really good to kind of go back over it, refresh it, or delete it and redirect it somewhere else. But that will then encourage Google to return, because you're actually seen as curating your website and keeping it up to date and fresh. So update your pages and your blogs is really, really key. So that was websites. This one is now kind of more about social media. So creating a social media plan is really, really key. Social media is the way of the world these days. It's too obvious to miss out on and not use, but it's really important that you have a plan. Too many people and too many businesses don't really have a plan, don't have a thought. They just kind of go, oh, we've not updated social media for a couple of days. Can somebody, a junior member of staff sometimes giving it to look after, can somebody just bob on and put something on, which doesn't necessarily tie in with the overall theme of the business or their strategy or their marketing plan, and it just seems a little bit random. Also, the fact that they've just kind of gone, oh, we just need to update something, means that you've not got any kind of consistent look and feel and thoughts. You're not kind of driving anything. You're just putting random things on when somebody remembers. So it's really, really key to make a social media plan, and that can be done just as easily just using a spreadsheet, which basically has days, times, the content, and what you're going to put out. Craft that together. Spend maybe I don't know, even if you spend an hour a month, 2 hours a month putting that together, and then schedule that for the whole month so you know what you've done. It makes your life easier, and it means that you're consistently getting your message out there, especially in times like this where it's really, really key to keep telling people that you're still around. We've massively increased our social media presence, because in times like this you want people to see that you're there. You want people to know that you've not gone, that you've not furloughed people, that you're still working, because when they're looking for somebody, they want to see somebody who's active. So by making a plan, you know what you're going to do before you do it, which is really, really key. On social media, again, complete all the profile information. I can't drive this home enough. So whatever you've chosen, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or any of the other channels, Pinterest, whatever it is you're going to use, ensure that your profile information is absolutely fully completed. So make sure there's a good clear photograph or a logo if it's a branded site. Make sure that every single question that they've ever asked is completely filled in. That could be from date of birth to address to opening times, web URLs, links to other social media accounts. Make sure it's all absolutely complete. And another thing from that as well is kind of consistency, and this ties a little bit back to the website stuff. So there's basically there's a thing called your name, address, and phone number, which is called shortcut for that's NAP, obviously. So Google really likes the name, address, and phone number to be the same everywhere, so that it can confirm that the names of the business is the same, the address is the same, and the phone number is the same, so that when it's looking out there and it's looking for different information, it can correlate that they're all exactly the same. So that if there's any confusion, Google will kind of down rank pages who give different information. So ensure that your company name is always spelled out the same. So if it's a limited business, either put LTD or write out limited in full, or don't use it, whatever you're going to do, but don't chop and change, because Google will get confused. The same for street addresses. If you're on I don't know, Johnson Place, write out and you always write it as Johnson Place in full, then always do that. Don't shorten it to Johnston PL or any other kind of derivation you could have. Make sure that you always use the same postcode, and make sure it's always laid out, ideally in full. But whatever you do, ensure it's consistent. The same with a phone number. So don't most people always use the kind of area codes these days. But again, make sure that it's consistent whatever you do, because that helps, and it also gives customers a sense of satisfaction that they think it's the right person as well. Okay, this one's really important, and I don't know how much I have to drive it home, but stop selling on every post. This is something that larger companies fall into, and companies who don't really think about social media. They see their social media as just a way of getting out advertising messages. Buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. Users, and it bores people and they turn off. It's called social media for a reason. So you need to be social on it. You need to spend that time being a human being. You would never in a million years dream of meeting somebody in a networking event and running up to them and thrusting your business card in the face and going, I sell marketing, can you buy my marketing, You just would never do it. So why do it on social media? You need to spend time to build up your presence, tell people who you are, what your value is, and then you can sell a little bit. I'm not saying that you should never ever sell. The balance should probably be kind of 90 to 10%. Of 90% is not selling, is providing useful information, highlighting other services for other people, giving people tips, information, and then the last 10% is the bit where you go, actually, can you use our services? Because that's what we're all here for. You need to get people to kind of buy from you. But if you're selling on every single post, people turn off. So do not sell on every single post. It's something that I'm sure you've all seen accounts where all they do is sell, and it doesn't work very well. So great content, which is easy to say. It's not necessarily always the easiest thing to do, but effectively, it's the internet now is a form of entertainment, and especially now that people are kind of a bit more locked in than they have been. My daughter, for example, has just watched. She's into Lego at the moment. It changes weekly, but this week it's Lego. And so she's watched this Australian lady who basically builds little Lego Friends sets. We've watched them all thousands of times. This lady is obviously making money off her YouTube channel from her advertising. Lego providing her with lots of toys so that she doesn't have to buy those. She's obviously making enough money so that she can run this is her business. But effectively, she's entertainment. She's like turning on BBC One for my 6-year-old. And that content keeps her there. So we watched every video from the beginning to the end, all 20-30 minutes of it, and then she'll watch them again, and then she'll watch them again. So just like people watch Game of Thrones or whatever, she's watching stuff on YouTube. That's effectively content. If your content can be entertaining enough and interesting enough that people will spend time with it, the more time they spend with your content, the more likely they are to buy from you. So really think about, again, this goes back to the last point about not selling to all the time, and that your content needs to be entertaining if possible. Show expertise. That's really key, especially when you're a B2B company. You're showing you that you're the expert, and it needs to look nice as well. If it looks really amateurly put together, if it's not consistent, if it doesn't keep your brand alive, then again it will fail. This does tie back to your kind of content plan as well. If you've got a content plan, your social media plan, then you can work on what kind of content will work. So I guess that these webinars that we're doing, this is all about our content. It's kind of part of our content plan to get things working. And that was the final tip. So there you go. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and just kind of ask you guys if you've got any questions, anything you want to pick up on, anything you've got from that.
was really useful. It's inspired me again to look at the social media aspect. I've got my web page and my Facebook page set up, so I'm going to go back and I start to do a plan, but I'm going to kick that into gear as well, because you're absolutely right. It's that when I did your course before, you mentioned there's like a diary website. I've got it written down.
Yeah.
So you can link it to other activities, and I think that's what really inspired us. Because for me, I kind of think I've got to sell myself straight away, and just doing some comment stuff on LinkedIn and that kind of thing I do normally.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, my social activity, is just as valuable for my business.
Yeah, I mean, it can be just as valuable to spend time on if LinkedIn's the channel that you're going to use, to spend time finding your kind of customers or people who are close to your customers, and not necessarily even posting about yourself, but just kind of commenting on what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if a customer puts a post up, kind of commenting on that, whether it's a kind of, oh, that's a really interesting idea, have you thought about doing this whatsoever? So it doesn't even have to be your post that goes out there, and the same applies to Facebook. The same applies to Twitter and to Instagram. By being social and taking an interest, people like to be taken an interest in. So if you can find your clients or your prospective clients, your prospective customers, and show an interest in them, then they're more likely to show an interest back. But yeah, definitely having a content plan is really, really key. Otherwise, you start every day with a blank piece of paper, and that's really hard.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Joy, is there anything you've got?
No, and I do sort of know about content planning, and I haven't stuck to it as rigidly as I probably should. When you were talking about stop selling on every post, that really made me smile, because a lot of jewellery brands, and actually in some Facebook groups, people have said to me, on your Instagram there's not enough jewellery. But that's the idea, is that it doesn't just look like a catalogue, it actually looks like social media. And it wasn't quite the right ratio, but one of the sort of guidance things I got told is know, like, trust, sell. So put something on about you as a person to cover the know and like stuff, include little tips and stuff for the trust factor, but like, don't completely shy away from selling. But you can't be selling just every single post, because it is boring.
Absolutely. I mean, especially as with your jewelry, it's a definite niche. So you need to, and obviously I follow your content as well. So I know that you do a lot of work that talks to that niche in a way. So it talks about new films coming out and kind of new content, rather than just kind of going, oh, I've got this Batman jewelry, I've got Superman jewelry, I've got some Avengers jewelry. You're talking kind of to the fandom. And then they'll wander across to what else it is you're doing, and then as a sell comes in. So yeah, I think you've got a good mix there.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very much a work in progress. By no means was I sort of trying to make out that I'm some kind of expert on this, but I think in terms of like the ratio of like selling stuff, I'm more happy with that than I was previously. So.
Yeah, because if you are always selling, I mean, I guess the classic is the DFS, isn't it? They're always in sale. So what only an idiot would buy something from DFS when there's not a sale on. But they've not a lot else to set up to tell you about other than there's a sale on, which I think is why they have changed their adverts for a little bit. They've got the ones with I forget his name now, the California guy who sits on the thing and doesn't talk about a sale, but every now and again the sale does pop up. So yeah, if you're selling all the time, it just turns people off. So I mean, a great example that I can think of is Yorkshire Tea. So Yorkshire Tea have got some amazing adverts, and they do some amazing social media, but they're not always going buy Yorkshire Tea, buy Yorkshire Tea, buy Yorkshire Tea. Every now and again they will, but the majority is just kind of entertainment, it's brand building for them. It's slightly different to a kind of a direct sell, but I think it's a good example of kind of the entertainment and the content that they've got that people will engage with, and then it's not a direct sell, but people will remember Yorkshire Tea. It's built up a kind of a cult following because of what they do, rather than just something that's just selling. That's the reason people know it a lot better than maybe it's a PG Tips or whatever, which is just a bag of tea. And I'm not a big tea fan, so maybe Yorkshire tea just tastes. I shouldn't say that, should I? I'm from Yorkshire. We're not allowed to say things like that. Yorkshire tea's gorgeous.
It's the best tea.
If anyone from Yorkshire tea's watching, it's lovely. I'm not a tea drinker, so I'm not entirely certain.
That's actually what I was just thinking. Actually, it's really interesting that for their brand, they've almost got, like, they really know their audience.
Yeah.
And while I'm sure it's not exclusively drunk by people that live in Yorkshire or from Yorkshire,
No.
that is a strong part of their brand identity, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. They own the Yorkshireness. It's built into the brand. I mean, it's called Yorkshire tea, so they kind of should do. But it is really built in. Everything they do is totally Yorkshire, down to the adverts with the Kaiser Chiefs into. They did some Zoom backgrounds actually, which are like images of Yorkshire with Yorkshire tea in the background. Everything's tied back so well.
You'd never dream it was from India, would you?
No, exactly. Yeah, There's a lot of people on social media going, "Well, I love my tea because it's from Yorkshire." It's like, it's not actually grown in Yorkshire, you know. The climate will not grow. The climate in Yorkshire will not grow tea. However hard you try. No, it will not grow tea. You can try as hard as you want, but it's just not happening.
That's brilliant. No. Joy, I'm intrigued. What's your business?
Well, I sort of, if this is going on YouTube, I kind of feel like I maybe shouldn't necessarily advertise.
You have to email me.
No, it's fine. No, you feel, Joy, if you want to, you feel free to tell us what your business is. That's fine.
Okay, cool. It's Cinebling, and it's jewellery for movie lovers and movie makers. So it's sort of got a little bit of a movie twist on it. We're bringing out a collection in the next few weeks that's perfectly popped. So it's actually popcorn that's been cast and then turned into silver.
Oh, wow.
So
excellent.
That'll be a bit different. We'll have to see how it goes, but yeah, I'm quite excited.
I'll find you on Instagram. That sounds great. I know loads of people who love that.
Fantastic. Please tell them.
Yes, I will. I'll find you on Instagram and start sharing.
Awesome. What is it that you do, Helen?
I've been working in public sector communications for like 30 years, and I've just I'm thinking about trying to set up on my own, so just to sort of support organisations contracting effectively. But I've been in public sector comms for too long, probably 30 years. So I do know it inside out though, so I'm kind of hoping that might be a bit of a unique selling point to support agencies who might have public sector clients or directly. So
yeah, I guess the whole trust thing for you will be quite easy to establish yourself as an expert then, with that much experience. That'll be brilliant. Yeah,
theoretically. But the minute I'm a lady of leisure, because I finished work on the 31st, so I'm doing volunteering at the moment, taking prescriptions to people, and I've joined the local group. So
fantastic.
Excellent. I'm healthy at the minute, so, and I should be healthy after being in lockdown for 3 weeks, because if I was going to have it, I'll have got it and been over it. So
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. I'm gonna call it a day now. But thanks for coming on, and thank you for your questions.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you for the tips.
You're very welcome.
Extremely useful.
You're really welcome. Not a problem. So, I said we've got the next ones are coming up. We've got one on Monday and then Tuesday, and then we've got one on selling the week after, and then one on entrepreneurial, on being an entrepreneur the week after that. And we've got some more coming up. So yeah, we've got. I'm putting together quite a raft of these. So once this is done, I will have this sorted out, this video, and it will be uploaded to YouTube and then posted onto our website as well. So you can feel free to have a look again and share it with your friends.
Will do. Great. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you so much, Richard.
No worries. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye.